Essentially how it works is that the federal government expanded the water trigger, which looks at the impact of energy and resource projects on water resources anywhere in Australia based on how the not only groundwater or subsurface water might be impacted, but also adjoining waterways. And so there are these very broad environmental checks and balances that the federal government uses to assess whether or not any project should go ahead. Now, we have seen late last year the federal government flagged that they would expand this to include gas projects. What's happened this morning is the Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek has essentially requested expert advice from the Independent Scientific Expert Committee to assess whether or not the water trigger needs to be applied on the Beetaloo Basin. This is a huge swathe of land in the top end of the Northern Territory, which is incredibly gas rich, and last year actually received environmental approvals to begin fracking exploration in the Northern Territory last year from the Northern Territory government. Now what we've seen is the federal government will say, okay, we're going to get independent advice. We don't know how long it will take, and we don't even know what the outcome will be. But when that advice comes back, that will guide a decision on whether or not we need a water trigger. If a water trigger is pulled or activated, what that could mean is significant delays as we see environmental approvals and assessments needed once more again for these gas projects.
All right, Mal, so what's the reaction been?
Well, environmentalists and environmental groups are very much welcome in it, as are traditional owners across the Northern Territory, at least the ones that have spoken on camera to the ABC. Cecilia Lake is a Manggarai woman. She's from out near the Roper Riverway, which is in the northeast of the Northern Territory. And she said, look, it's a good start and she's happy to see it, but what she really wants to see is a guarantee that the water trigger will be activated. Now, traditional owners, many have been quite vocal in their concerns raised about what fracking might do, not only to subsurface water in the process that fracking takes place, but also towards adjoining waterways. And the Roper River is one that is incredibly significant to Manggarai people, also to Yanyuwa people, as well as Garawa people. We've even seen some federal politicians in the Northern Territory, including Malarndirri McCarthy, as well as Marion Scrymgeour, both in the Federal Labor Party, more or less welcome that this advice is being sought. And of course, Marion Scrymgeour and Malarndirri McCarthy both opposing fracking at separate stages. Now that Malarndirri McCarthy's in cabinet, what her position might be when these independent advice comes back still does remain to be seen. For what it's worth, the gas lobby has also said and reacted to this development, saying that they're displeased at it, essentially, that these are unnecessary roadblocks and often duplication. When the Northern Territory government had already approved these projects for their environmental credentials, to go through it once more is an unnecessary duplication that they're not pleased to see.